Welcome to Gene's Reviews, where I basically do whatever the hell I want. Hello everybody, you saw my intro, so you know who I am. Today we're going to do one from a channel called Donovan Dread Mysteries. This is called Proof that Giants Do Exist. I think they did at one time, I don't know if they still do. But let's check this out.
Throughout history and across almost every culture known to man, tales of giant humanoids have emerged as stories meant to excite or terrify. Giants are more than just tall tales. However, there's a reason these mythological figures appear in the legends of so many different cultures. While sometimes dismissed as cases of mistaken identity or as outright hoaxes, there's no denying that bones of these giant humanoids
they have found
clawed their way out
proof
of the past and into the modern archaeological discussion. War, tragedy, and cannibalism. Here are 12 times the discovery of giants depicted a terrifying vision of our past. At number 12, ancient Roman giants. In 1991, archaeologists excavating in the Acropolis in Fidenae came upon a surprisingly long tomb. The Roman man buried inside was discovered to be approximately 6 feet 8 inches tall. While this is hardly a giant by modern standards, the average human height at the time and location of this giant's life was a mere 5'6". He would have towered over the people of ancient Rome in a way unseen by history. Upon further inspection, the researchers realized that the ancient Roman giant was only between 16 and 20 years of age. This bona fide Goliath could have still been growing when his life was unfortunately cut short. These details have led scientists to conclude that this particular skeleton was likely the earliest case of gigantism. Regardless of whether the young man's stature was medical or mystical in origin, this is only the first of many skeletal remains that have hinted at the sometimes tragic nature of history's giants.
Well, if he was only 16, he probably 11, was still growing.
The Ohio Valley Giants. Indigenous tribes from the Ohio Valley area all tell tales of the Allegowee people, giant Native Americans who stood between 7 and 8 feet tall. This tribe of giants was described as powerful.
Boy, now, that isn't creepy.
Waging militaristic battles against their neighbors while living in large fortified towns. While the histories of the people have been lost to time, told only in the fables of other nearby tribes, giant skeletons have reportedly been discovered throughout the Ohio Valley region. Historian Fritz Zimmerman described
the size of that head.
Giant remains being unearthed in the
goodness.
ancient effigy mounds of the local area. The skulls recovered among these remains featured thick walls, sloping foreheads, and protruding brows. These elements have related this tribe closer to the Cro-Magnon people of Europe and Asia. This connection would explain the larger, denser bone structure found in the giant skeletons of the Ohio Valley. Coming in at number 10, the giants of Catalina Island. In the early 20th century, archaeologist Ralph Glidden excavated more than 800 ancient burial sites on Catalina Island. Glidden claimed to discover a lost race of giant fair-haired people who stood between 7 and 9 feet in height. Although Glidden's claims were dismissed by scientific communities, he was photographed at one of his dig sites where giant remains were found. A large humanoid skeleton can clearly be seen in the frame. The dismissal of Glidden's photographic evidence is only one example of the scientific community's strange attempts to hide evidence that giants.
Why would they dispute it if he has proof?
Number 9, Lovelock Cave. History's giants weren't only renowned for their incredible
Lovelock, that's Nevada.
Additional tales describe their double rows of teeth and their cannibalistic appetites. One legend sees that the last of the giant Seetica people were chased into the caves of Lovelock, Nevada. These caves collapsed, trapping the giants until their remains were uncovered in 1911. 2 giant red-haired bodies were identified, one male and one female. The woman was believed to be approximately 6'6".
Wow.
The male was much taller, around 8 feet. In 1931, two more giant skeletons were found in a nearby lake bed. These specimens measured around 8 feet 6 inches tall and 10 feet tall. An ancient race of giant cannibals was certainly one of history's darkest secrets. Thanks to the remains found in and around Lovelock, Nevada, those secrets have been revealed. Coming in at number 8, the West Virginia Giants. West Virginia has been hiding giants of its own. In this case, the secrets being kept about West Virginia's giants.
I'll bet there's a lot
might
hidden
be
in
for
West
the
Virginia.
best. These remains haven't just been found laying in the earth after all. In 1882,
Not just giants.
two archaeologists discovered a shelter hidden among a Marion County rock formation. Inside that shelter, the duo came across a false wall. Behind it, the mummified remains of a giant humanoid were found sitting in a chair, surrounded by stone and flint. In 1883, a team of archaeologists in South Charleston excavated an effigy mound and found 10 skeletons, ceremoniously encircling the remains of another giant. West Virginia's discoveries have been so unique and so plentiful that the finds have actually been published in early newspapers of the 1900s. Giants were still being discovered in West Virginia as recently as 1959. While these specimens weren't any taller than the other giants mentioned on this list, their more elaborate burial sites implicate a more complicated history with ancient human cultures. These giants could have been figures of worship and offered as treasure and sacrifice as they were buried. Number 7, Deerfield Giant.
Wow.
Massachusetts is home to its own 8-foot monster. In 1895, historian George Sheldon logged the discovery of a multitude of skeletons that were exposed by the plowing of a natural embankment. Weapons and tools were found among these corpses, but it was the size of one particular specimen that demanded Sheldon's attention. Sheldon described a skeleton of monstrous proportions, including a head the size of a basket with double teeth all around. Sheldon had these remains examined by a doctor who insisted that the skeleton would have stood 8 feet tall when it was alive. The Deerfield Giant shares obvious qualities with the skeletons discovered in Lovelock, Nevada. If these giants were merely the work of an elaborate hoax, how could the burial site, separated by more than 2,500 miles, feature remains with so many similarities?
Yeah.
Number 6, the Miami Valley.
It's amazing to me that all these years later they're still finding this stuff. I guess it's really not that amazing. I mean, after, flooding or droughts and things like that, and the water goes away, probably do find a lot more stuff. This stuff really, really interests me.
Skeleton. In 1899, the Daily Telegraph reported the excavation of an 8-foot-tall skeleton discovered in Miami Valley, Ohio. The skeleton was described of being of prehistoric age and proportionate to modern human anatomy.
So caveman
The
era.
giant skull, however, resembled that of a gorilla. It is, of course, tempting to dismiss this archaeological discovery as a misidentified prehistoric ape. However, the Miami Valley skeleton was also discovered in close proximity to intricate stone tools. Even the oldest of the giant remains seem to support the description provided by the Alagui people. These skeletons do not belong to obscure human ancestors, nor are they remains of known apes. These giants were consistently as intelligent as they were dangerous.
Wow.
Number 5, the Kentucky Giant. Kentucky has a giant legend all on its own. Similar to the indigenous tribes of the Ohio Valley, communities native to Kentucky tell of a tribe of giant warriors. These men were fair-skinned and yellow-haired, potentially Norse in origin. They were militaristic and fearsome, but ultimately fell to the Shawnee after a particularly violent battle. The Shawnee made an effort to kill every living member of the giant population.
Wow.
And destroyed their homes afterwards. Due to the lack of physical evidence, the existence of this giant warrior race was always met with criticism and scrutiny. However, in 1965, a skeleton
I'm gonna have
man,
to watch that
8
movie,
feet 9
Jack the
inches,
Giant
was
Slayer.
found buried near Holly Creek. This recent discovery proves that giants existed and that there were several unique groups of these people scattered throughout the ancient world. Number 4. The Death Valley Giants. The dismissal of the scientific community isn't always the greatest threat facing an archaeologist who has uncovered giant remains. Sometimes the individuals in question simply disappear. In 1931, Dr. Bruce Russell stumbled upon a series of elaborate underground tunnels in the heart of Death Valley. Russell and his colleague Daniel Bovee fell into the caves while investigating a potential mining claim. Once inside, the duo described seeing a combination of 32 tunnels which ran approximately 180 square miles beneath the surface of Death Valley. In one of these tunnels, Russell discovered the mummified remains of 3 giant men. These men stood between 8 and 9 feet tall, and they were buried with a number of preserved artifacts and animals. Russell and Bovee reported their findings. A group of investors took an interest in Russell's tunnels.
So this is in the
He was
Mojave
unable
Desert.
to find the entrance to the cavern a second time. Mysteriously, Russell and Bovee both disappeared soon thereafter. Russell's car was found abandoned in a remote area of the Death Valley, with his belongings still inside. Did the duo's renewed search for the cave cost them their lives? Or did someone else want to cover up their giant discovery? Coming in at number 3, the Patagonian Giants.
That sounds
The
suspect.
existence of giants is present in historical records that far precede any North American newspaper or scholarly report. In the 1500s, Spanish explorers like Ferdinand Magellan reported the appearance of giant people in places like modern-day Argentina. These giants were discovered as being so tall that the Spanish sailors only stood as high as their waists.
Jeez,
Reports credited the giants as being anywhere from 10 to 15 feet tall.
that'd be nuts.
Unfortunately, it's said that Magellan took some of these giants as captives to bring home after his voyage. None of these prisoners would survive, and Magellan's treatment of the people would ultimately sour the giants on any friendly interactions with future explorers.
I don't doubt that.
Nonetheless, additional sightings of these giants still occurred. In 1597, the 1590s, and in 1615, the appearance of these monstrous people were logged time and time again. Despite the numerous nature of these reports and the corroborating accounts of people with no affiliation with one another, the Patagonian giants are now largely considered a hoax. This could be the earliest historical example of the same cover-up that led to Bruce Russell's disappearance. Number 2, the Giant of Castleknock. In some cases, the investigation of giant skeletal remains comes to a sudden and permanent halt. In 1890, Georges Vacher de Lapouge discovered 3 bone fragments in one of France's Bronze Age cemeteries. These fragments were pieces of a human tibia,
Yeah, the
femur,
leg.
and humerus. To Lapouge's surprise, each of the fragment was more than double its usual size. The height of the giant was estimated to be 11 feet and 6 inches. These bones would be studied at the University of Montpellier and the Montpellier School of Medicine. In both cases, Lapouge's hypothesis was accepted. The bone fragments belonged to an incredibly tall humanoid race. For truly no discernible reason, the Giant of Castleknock disappears after these findings were verified. In 1894, 3 giant skulls were recovered from another nearby ancient cemetery. These reportedly belonged to men who were between 10 and 15 feet tall.
I can't even imagine
After
that.
these bones
I'm
were sent to the French
5'8".
Academy of Sciences, they too stopped being mentioned in the history books. And coming in at number 1, Kinametsan Giants. It's clear that someone wants the truth about giants to stay buried. Could it be because the existence of a giant humanoid population would disrupt what is largely accepted as world history? Could it be because of the religious implications that would come with the revelation that giants are as real as they appear in the book of Genesis? History's most frightening giants might be the ones with the most comprehensive legend. The presence of giants in ancient Mexico was regarded with so much respect that even
It should
Hernan
be.
Cortez The conquistador who led the expedition against the Aztecs believed in their existence. He claimed to have seen human bones so large that he hoped to bring them
I wonder
back
if
to the
that's
cave.
real.
The diary entries of the conquistadors even mention meeting these giants in the flesh. These giant people were called Kinametsin by the Aztec. While they were regarded for many years as fables, more recent skeletal discoveries have brought their existence back into debate. In 1925, the New York Times published an article describing the remains of the men discovered in a Mexico cave. These men range from 10 to 12 feet tall. Mexico has been a hotspot for giant discoveries for the last 500 years. These stories predate UFO hysteria. They predate cell phones and internet coverage,
Yeah.
where hoaxes and tall tales gain the majority of their momentum. How could Mexico, Argentina, the United States, and France all make similar discoveries in a world before email? Photoshop dig sites and viral pranks might be all the rage nowadays. But the only way these skeletal
Not back then.
discoveries could have taken place in the past is if the bodies were actually real.
That was cool. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of that. I'm fascinated by all kinds of different stuff like that. Now, how about a joke? What do you call a fear of giants? Fee-fi phobia. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Mean Gene, all that fun stuff. And if you like this video, tell all your friends, leave a comment down below. And if you didn't like it, then just shut up. And I will see you next time.